Welcome to Her Subconscious Blueprint, your no BS space for subconscious healing, bold breakthroughs, and manifestations. I'm Jen Boyd, hypnotherapist, mindset coach, and your new healing hype girl. So today we're talking about something that every single one of us comes face to face with: fear. But not just any kind of fear. We're diving into a method that literally rewires how you approach it. It's an exercise called fear setting. It's like goal setting, but for fears. And if you've never heard of it before, by the end of this episode, I promise it'll be a tool that you'll come back to again and again and again. So let me paint you with a picture. Imagine you have a desire on your heart. Maybe it's launching a business, quitting your 9 to 5, investing in a program, or having an honest conversation that might shake things up. Maybe it's asking for that raise. And yet, despite how much your soul is screaming yes, you completely freeze. You stall, you overthink, you scroll, you clean your house, you organize your closet, and all of a sudden, your sock drawers need to be cleaned out. You do literally anything but the thing. That's fear. And not the kind of fear that's keeping you safe from real danger. I'm talking about the fear that whispers, what if you fail? What if people judge you? What if it all falls apart? What if it doesn't work out? What if they say no? Now, here's the thing. Our brain is wired to avoid pain more than it is wired to seek pleasure. There's even a name for this in psychology called loss aversions. Studies show that pain of losing something is psychologically twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. So when fear pops up, it's often our brains trying to protect us, not from actual danger, but from emotional pain, rejection, embarrassment, or even failure. The problem is, it protects us by keeping us small. Take, for example, a person decides not to quit their job because they're afraid of losing their income. Even though they're unhappy with their current situation, the person is more concerned with avoiding the potential loss of their income than with the potential gain of finding a new job. Finding a new job that they are more satisfied with. The truth is, about 95% of our fears are complete lies that we have told ourselves. Think about it. How many times have you played out the worst case scenario in your head, only for reality to look nothing like the scary story that you created? Maybe you imagined that if you spoke up in a meeting, everyone would roll their eyes, or if you launched a business, no one would buy. And yet, when you actually do the thing, it's never nearly as catastrophic as the movie your mind had on repeat. That's because your brain is a storyteller, and not always a good one. It's constantly filling in the blanks with what ifs and those dramatic endings, almost like a bad fortune teller that is convincing you that something awful is coming. It takes tiny bits of information. Maybe a look that someone gave you, unanswered texts, a risk you're considering, and it spins an entire narrative out of it. But just because your mind tells a story doesn't mean the story is true. So when fear rises, it's worth asking yourself, is this fear based in reality? Or is it just a story I've been telling myself so many times that it feels true? Most of the time, it's the second one. It's like a mental ghost. You can't touch it, but you can feel it running your decisions. When you start recognizing that 95% of your fears are just that, they're stories, not facts, you can stop letting them hold the pen and start writing a different ending. So let's talk a little bit more about this technique called fear setting. It's a method that I discovered and was made famous by Tim Ferriss in his TED Talk. And honestly, it's a practice that changed the way I look and work with fear in my own life. And I teach my kids this same thing. And the crazy part, it's so simple. Not easy, but simple. Because here's the truth. Clarity dissolves fear. And most of us are terrified of what we haven't actually taken the time to define. We avoid it, the exact thing, but we never examine it. And when we don't examine it, it controls us. Fear thrives in vagueness. The more ambiguous something is, the scarier it feels. That's how the brain works. It fills in the blanks with the worst case scenario unless we give it specifics. This is a survival response rooted in your amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for threat detection. But here's the thing. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between real danger and imagined danger. So when you say, I'm afraid I'll fail, your body reacts the same way it would as if you were being chased by a bear. Heart racing, palm sweating, fight or flight mode. And you wonder why you can't move forward. It's because your nervous system thinks you're in danger. That's why naming the fear, getting it out of your head and onto paper is so powerful. You take something that was living in the shadows and you bring it into the light. You shift from a reactive state to a conscious one. And in that moment, you become the observer of your fear, not the prisoner of it. So let's start there with the very first step. The first step is we want to define. I want you to take a fear that you've been sitting with. Let's use money, for example, because let's be real. Fear around money is one of the most common blocks that I see. Maybe the fear is, if I spend this money on something I believe in, I might not make it back. I'll go broke. I'll disappoint my partner. I'll end up in debt. When you say that fear out loud or write it down, it feels heavy, but it's real. And by defining it, you've already taken the first step in taking your power back. You've taken something vague and shapeless and given it form. And what has form can be worked with. Next, figure out how you can prevent it from happening. What can you do to prevent the worst case scenario from actually happening? Maybe you create a financial cushion first. Maybe you set up a plan to earn the money back before you invest it. Maybe you have a real conversation with your partner about your vision. Most of the time, when we look at our fears logically, we realize that there are steps that we can take to prevent them. We're not as powerless as fear makes us feel. It's like the fear fog starts to lift when you actually get practical. You start to see that you do have options, you do have control, and you do have power. Now, how could we repair if this did happen? Let's say the worst case actually does happen. You make the investment and you don't get the return that you expected. What then? Could you get a side gig for a month? Could you ask for help? Could you learn from it and use that lesson to make it better next time and make better choices? Most of us are far more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. Like, seriously, think about some of the things that you have already survived, things you thought might break you. And yet, here you are. You didn't die. You're still standing. You're still growing. You're still showing up. That's not weakness. That's proof that you are resilient. So write out how you would bounce back. Map it out. Give your nervous system a little peace of mind, because fear loses its grip when you realize you can handle more than you think. There's a quote that I love. I'm not really sure who said it, but it says, "You've survived 100% of your worst days. You're batting 1,000. Maybe it was a baseball player with the batting analogy. But it's true. Think about the last time you faced something hard, something you thought you couldn't even get through. And yet, here you are. Fear wants you to forget that. It wants you to believe that you're crumbling, that you'll break, you won't recover. But you've already proven otherwise. You are walking proof of your own strength. Think about how many people stay stuck in relationships that they've outgrown because of fear. The stories they'll tell themselves is, if I leave, I'll be alone forever. No one else will love me. I'll regret it. That fear feels so real that it keeps them paralyzed. But when you actually walk in it and walk through it, the truth usually looks very different. If the relationship ended, they'll still have friends, family, maybe even a support network that they haven't even leaned on yet. They'll have time to rediscover themselves, to build a stronger sense of self-worth. And in reality, leaving something unhealthy often creates the space for healthier love to come in. The fear was a lie. The lie that loneliness is worse than self-abandonment. But once that gets exposed, people realize the actual worst case isn't nearly as devastating as the story in their head. Sometimes we need to stop asking, what if it doesn't work out, and start asking, what if it does work out better than I thought? What if it all works out? Then we move into benefits. What do I mean by benefits? What might happen if you did the thing in spite of all the fear? What might be possible if you launched the course, or had the conversation, or started the business, or made the money, or spent the money, or invested in yourself? Or if you left the job or the relationship? Maybe you gain clarity, confidence, momentum. Maybe you call in the exact opportunity you've been praying for. There are always benefits hiding behind the fear. But fear won't let you see them unless you go looking. I've had people say, if I hadn't done the scary thing, I wouldn't have found the thing that lit me up. But that only happens when you stop letting fear call the shots. And finally, stop avoiding. This one hits deep. What will it cost you to keep letting fear run the show? If you don't act, what will you lose in 3 months, a year, 3 years? And I love asking this question. What will your life look like if nothing changes? The answer is usually more terrifying than any worst case scenario, because you weren't made for comfort zones. You weren't made to shrink. That dream you have, it's not random, it's a calling. And ignoring it, that has a cost too. Now, here's something I want you to hear clearly. Fears are not facts. Just because your mind offers you a scary thought doesn't mean it's the truth. Neuroscience tells us that 80 to 90% of the thoughts we have today are the same as yesterday, and most of them are subconscious. That means unless you're interrupting those patterns, we are letting old programming run the show. Here is a reframe that might change everything. Fear is often just your subconscious trying to keep you in the know. Because the known equals safety. Even if it's uncomfortable, the unknown, that's risky, that's scary, even if it's where your freedom lives. This is where your subconscious reprogramming becomes so powerful. Your subconscious is like a loyal employee. It just is following instructions that you gave it, probably years ago. Maybe you grew up in a household where taking risks got you punished, or where money was tight and spending was labeled as irresponsible. That conditioning didn't just vanish when you moved out. It became the script your subconscious runs on. And unless you update the script, you'll keep repeating the same fear-based patterns over and over and over again your entire life. But when you start giving your subconscious new instructions, a new manual, new beliefs, new visions, new language, everything begins to shift. That is why I always say, talk to your subconscious like it's a 7-year-old, because it's listening, it's learning, and it will believe whatever you tell it the most often and with the most emotions. So I teach something I call empowered thought exercise. It's about interrupting disempowered thoughts and replacing them with thoughts that move you forward. So let's walk through one of them. Think about something you're scared to do. Maybe it's putting yourself out there online. Your disempowered thought might be, people will judge me. I'm not good enough. First, ask, is this true? Like, really, can you prove it? Then ask what else could be true. Maybe it's, some people might judge me, but others will be inspired. And I have something valuable to say. Then you choose the thought that empowers you. Even if it's not 100% comfortable yet, which thought moves you towards your goal, towards your vision? Choose that one and then act on it, because action is the antidote to fear. Every time you take a step, even a small one, your subconscious gets the message that I am safe and I can handle this. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending fear doesn't exist. It's about acknowledging it, sitting with it, and understanding it, and then choosing faith over fear. Because fear is always going to be the car, but you get to choose whether it drives or just sits in the back seat. Here's the practice I want to offer to you. Try on your empowered thought for 7 days. Act as if it's your truth. Let it inform you how to move, how to speak, how to show up, and just watch what happens. You'll start to collect evidence that you are more capable, more resourceful, and more supported than you realized. And if you still feel stuck, try this. Write a letter to your fear. I know this might sound a little out there, but stay with me. Write to your fear like it's a sacred child and ask it what it needs. Ask it what it's afraid of, and then comfort it. Tell it you're here now, that you're not abandoning yourself, that you're capable, that you've got this. This simple practice can rewire so much because it shifts your relationship to fear from enemy to inner protection. When you soothe the fear instead of judging it, it starts to loosen its grip. And if you're wondering, but what if this doesn't work? Let me flip the question for you. What if it does work? What if this is the one decision to face fear becomes the doorway to everything you've been asking for? And I'll leave you with this. Fear is a compass. It points towards the exact thing that's meant to grow you. If you can be brave enough to listen, brave enough to walk towards it instead of away from it, your life will expand in ways that you cannot even imagine right now. Everything you want is on the other side of fear. You've been avoiding it. And you don't have to have it all figured out. This isn't about perfection. You just have to be willing to take one step. And I want to say something, especially to the women listening who feel stuck, who's been stuck for a while. I see you. I've been you. And I know what it's like to carry dreams that feel too big and fears that feel too loud. I know what it's like to wonder, what if people judge me? What if I'm not enough? And I'm telling you with every cell in my body, you are. You wouldn't have the vision if you weren't also born with the ability to bring it to life. You're not behind. You're not broken. You are becoming. And fear? Fear is just a sign that you're growing. So today I want to invite you to do a little fear setting. Pick one fear that's been holding you back. Walk through the 5 steps. Define, prevent, repair, benefits, and avoiding. Get curious, get honest, and then make one empowered move. Just one. You don't have to leap. You just have to shift. That's how we build a life rooted in faith, not fear. And if this episode brought you clarity, comfort, or even just an aha moment, I would love it if you would share it, subscribe, or tag me on Instagram. You can find me at Her Subconscious Blueprint. And let's get the word out. Let's turn personal healing into collective empowerment. And if you want to dive deeper into rewiring your fears and stepping in to the version of you that's bold and grounded and abundant, check out the show notes for access to my self-guided hypnosis bundle and private coaching options. You've got this. Your fear isn't the boss. You are. I am so full of love and gratitude that I get to share this space with you. This is Her Subconscious Blueprint, where we don't just chase the dreams, we become them. And remember, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. So go out and be that version of her today. Much love and gratitude. I will see you next time.